My name is Mark Newman. I'm Chief Analyst at TM Forum. What does an analyst like me do? Well, I speak to people like you, and I try and figure out what's going on in our wonderful world of telecoms and try and paint a bit of a picture about the future. And thank you to many of you who I already work with, so it's always great to get your time. So over the next hour or so, we're going to hear from three titans, technology and telecoms titans, the two largest US telecoms operators, and the world's largest public cloud company. And it's what I find most interesting, the big trend for me the last 3-4 years in telco is how these partnerships are evolving. We'll hear that as a constant theme throughout the next couple of days. So with no further ado, I'd like to invite onto the stage Andy Markus. Andy is SVP and Chief Digital Data Officer at AT&T. Andy.
Thanks, Mark.
So come take it. You must be exhausted after your long journey.
Yeah.
From the office.
It's a long walk.
Yeah, it's a long walk. How many blocks is it?
I don't know, 3 or 4.
3 or 4.
Yeah,
I'd say so. Take it easy.
I never thought I'd be opening at Gillies, though.
There you go. So you can tell your friends and family about now. This world of telco is kind of moving in a bit of a new gear.
No one wants to hear me sing.
There you go. We can give it a go. No one will complain.
Yeah.
So I think what everyone would like to hear, Andy, is how you're getting on. I mean, in terms of AI at AT&T, where are you? Where are you at?
It's a really, really great story. So, you know, at AT&T, AI is not new, right? I'll use one of my favorite songs from Hamilton, the play Hamilton, right? We were in the room when it happened, right? AT&T was there when the term artificial intelligence was coined, right? With IBM, with Harvard, with Dartmouth. It's really integrated into how we run our business. We were actually talking to Ray Ozzie not long ago, who was the chief architect at Microsoft, and he was kind of pressing on this. And he said, Andy, if something magical happened at midnight, all of your AI stopped, what would happen? I said, Ray, it would be a bad day the next day at AT&T. I mean, it's really integrated into how we run the company, how we run the network, how we run the care, how we run the field network.
Presumably, there's been a step change since GenAI came along. I mean, can we talk about stage 1 and stage 2? Is it as clear cut as that?
100%. Like, so that's traditional AI. I definitely call that stage 1. And it's really just, you know, the core blocking and tackling what we do. But generative AI has allowed us to touch so many more use cases. But I will say, like, it's not generative AI and just generative AI. Most of our use cases still rely on the core fundamentals, right? I'll kind of go back to a Dallas analogy, like the Cowboys, right? You look at the long touchdown pass from Dak to CD, right? But that's generative AI, but it's the foundation of traditional AI, of automation, and great data work that makes it happen. And so, like, all those things are very important in our use cases, but generative AI is allowing us to do more now than we could ever do before. And we're really leaning into it.
Yeah. So I think when we were chatting before, you talked about there being, I think, a 900-strong, 900-people organization. Can you tell us a little bit about the skills that you have, the skills that you need, the extent to which you're reskilling versus bringing in new skills, the organizational approach?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I would say it's this. We have a lot of people at AT&T that have been working their careers waiting for this moment. Like, really, it's like, you know, doing the good things that it took to be ready to capitalize on this moment in technology. And I'll give you an example. AT&T now, we're #1 in the world in this competition called BIRD. BIRD is the ability to take human language, turn it into computer language, in this case SQL, and address complex data that we've never saw, and accurately do the analytics based on the benchmarks. #1 in the world over, you know, great companies like IBM, Google, Uber, Alibaba, et cetera. And we did that, right, because we really leaned into generative AI, but we used our great skills in understanding complex data and combine those together to create that secret sauce.
Yeah.
And so we've done that, and we've also brought in, really great young talent. We have a great, recruiting program for AI talent here in the city, and it's created like this passionate, group of people, and we've energized this across the company, right? So it's not just our team. We work with our partners really closely. Like we would never, like my day job at AT&T is to work with our business and help all of us create value using these tools.
Yeah.
Value is the reason I get up in the morning and the reason I go to sleep at night, driving value at AT&T. And it's the partnership with the business. And evangelizing this throughout the business has been really, really fascinating. And all parts of our business, we have like hundreds of use cases that we've stacked up on generative AI. And you see that passion as we've evangelized this through the business on ideas that they had. And we've done this many different ways. So we have great educational courses for the business. We have two, with our partners in HR, 2 personal learning courses on how to use generative AI to do your day-to-day work, but how to think about your domain in a different way. And we've also leaned in with like what I call boot camps or hackathons, where we've been hands-on with the business to help them think about their part of the business and create generative AI solutions with all the great tools we've talked about, and to show them the art of the possible. And like these have been great learning tools, but even through these boot camps, I think we've delivered almost $20 million of value.
Wow. So you said when I just asked the question that many people have been waiting for this moment to come, and naturally that makes me think, well, so you've gone through a process of reskilling people to use AI properly, but can you give us a sense of the extent to which it's reskilling versus new skills? And when it comes to those new skills, what are the main job functions that you've been recruiting for in the last couple of years, shall we say?
I think honestly, the major reskilling is just the ability to think differently. The technical skills, it actually brings more people into the room, into the box, right? So like, truly the people that are doing this work at AT&T, it's expanding, it's not shrinking. Our job is to really work across all parts of AT&T, and we're great if we're all great, not just if one small group is great. And that's the concept that we have, right? Is to bring this to all parts of the company, give them the right technology that they need, and to help them do their job through reusable functionality. Right, and that's another great thing about where we are, and I say this routinely, but generative AI has created the ability to create very general AI, where before, with traditional AI, we were creating very bespoke solutions that would solve a problem and do great things, but it'd be very technical, very customized. This has allowed us to create patterns that we can then repeat over and over, so really we lean on the reuse of this. And I'll kind of go a little bit deeper, but it's really important. Like these core patterns that we've kind of incorporated into this product that we call, or this software we call Ask AT&T, really brings this across the company. So we call it Ask AT&T because generative AI, this out of the box, is not that smart on our company's domain, right? Not very smart at all. But our job is to make Ask AT&T really brilliant on how to operate at AT&T. So we created functionality like we call it Ask Docs, the ability to understand text and images in our documentation to help our people that deal with policies and procedures do that more efficiently. Ask Data. I talked about this bird competition, the ability to integrate human language to be the new computer language across the board. And then unlocking it all with autonomous agents. Breaking down, big problems into smaller problems. These skill sets have been really important, and this has brought, generative AI to all parts of AT&T.
And there's often discussion about build versus buy. How have you approached that, and how does that change moving forward as you skill up more?
I think it's a great question. Look, when we started this, say 20 months ago, everything was greenfield, right? And so there was no choice. We were building. But I always tell our team, and our team definitely, this resonates with them, I never want to rebuild a commodity, right? That's not where we want to spend our time and our money. And there was no commodity 20 months ago. But now we have to think about the change in landscape. I mean, it changes so fast. There are things that are becoming a commodity. And so we do look at that. And we try to balance these core capabilities that we've created with Ask AT&T, which I believe is, like a best-in-class RAG. We've talked about how we're able to really, change kind of how we deal with data. But we need to look at that on what our partners are doing. We work very closely with our partners, with the hyperscalers, with Microsoft, with Amazon, with Google, partners like OpenAI, like Databricks, NVIDIA, to make sure that they don't have something on their roadmap that's just around the corner that we don't have to build. But to your point on how we look at this, it actually is distilled into a pretty simple set of 4 things. The very first thing we look at is accuracy. You guys, I'm speaking to the choir here, but all generative AI is not created equal. Just because you can do generative AI doesn't mean you can do generative AI well. And so accuracy is very important. We've created a whole discipline around, around grading our generative AI and generative AI that comes from other providers to ensure it has the accuracy level that we expect. And accuracy is what delivers the value of the use case. Right? If you say you have a use case and you're going to apply generative AI and it's 50% accurate, there's no value there. If it's 95% accurate, there's a lot of value there. Accuracy is key, and so we grade this. Cost is really important. We now have over 130 million API calls to this backend platform. We're I guess processing over 1 billion tokens a day with generative AI. Cost has now become a factor. Early on, 20 months ago, I told the team, don't worry about cost, just make this stuff work. Now cost is a thing we have to deal with, but through small language models, through fine-tuning, through best-in-class RAG, we now can get an accurate solution that's equally as accurate, or maybe more accurate actually in some cases than other big models that are a fraction of the cost, literally less than 10%. And then latency is very important for us, because more and more of our applications are becoming customer-facing, and we have to have that latency that makes a difference for you if you're our customer. And then the last thing I'll say is this concept of interoperability.
Yeah, I was going to come to that.
Okay, and it's the ability to kind of plug and play because things change, but it's also to be in control of our own data.
Yeah, and so it's interesting. I mean, you talked about partnering with infrastructure players, with hyperscalers, but increasingly, your software suppliers will also all be embedding AI in their software. And to touch on George's point, there was a lot of what we've done so far has been what he calls a bolt-on use case and applications. But when you truly embed AI in the whole enterprise architecture and you're embedding third-party software on use cases, isn't the risk of technical debt building up? Are you at the stage where you know how to avoid that accumulation of technical debt, or is it just a constant learning and questioning process?
No, it's an excellent point, but I think it kind of boils down to those core tenets that I just talked about. If you're, a software company bringing, generative AI solutions into AT&T, are you accurate? Do you meet our level of accuracy? Is your solution providing the data interoperability that we need? Right? Because we're done at AT&T having our data locked up into proprietary formats of our software vendors. That day is past. We now control our data, and then we leverage the right platform, the right compute to use that data for the given use case. And so I think, and then we look at cost and latency. But in many cases, we do want to, eliminate a multiple screen experience for our employees. And so we want it embedded into their tools, but often they're calling our platform. And if they're not calling our platform, we're at least grading the solution.
Yeah. Okay. So coming back to, the risk of technical debt. Sorry, I'm asking you a question again. but I mean, this does seem to be, do you think the industry has quite got its head around what the risk is yet around technical debt? I'm just sensing that it's there as an issue, but we're not really quite sure, because there's going to be so many different ways in which OEMs embed AI and matching that with your own. I mean, you sound pretty confident, pretty chilled that you have a way of addressing that.
Yeah, I do feel comfortable. I mean, we started out early on saying, if we hitch our wagon to one type of technology, we're not going to achieve those goals. We're going to be spending more than we should be spending. We're not going to get the functionality, the accuracy that we expect. And so we built this framework to be very nimble, that we can plug and play when it makes sense and not rebuild from scratch.
And interesting, I mean, you are a huge telco. You can do that. Presumably there's smaller telcos might struggle to have that same approach. So they might need to have a different sort of view in terms of who they partner with. Maybe they need to commit to some partners rather than others. I guess it's not a question for you to answer, but I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on whether every telco can have that sort of neutral, impartial.
Yeah, it's another good
open approach.
But I think the technology is changing so fast. There's no guarantee in 3 months the same leaders today will be the leaders then.
Yeah.
So I think you have to think through that. And I also think you have to think through the accuracy piece. You have to have a way to evaluate this in a very empirical way, because you can't just trust it out of the box.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about data. And I guess there's two parts to that. There's high quality data and there's access to the data. And again, this has been a process, been going on for how many years? I mean, Telco have been talking about reusing data for 10, 12, 15 years.
I've only been here 4.
You're forgiven. But to what extent, when we start thinking about deploying AI at scale, to what extent are telcos which thought they're in a fairly good position with data having to rethink and review and change their data strategy because scale is very different from occasional bolt-on use cases?
Yeah, scale of large telcos breaks things, for sure. We've broken many things in my 4 years. Here's what I would say, is so we talked about, Ask Data, talked about the BIRD results. We know we can do great things with generative AI, on, raw data, but we know to do it efficiently and to have it optimized, we need to have a curated view of that data. And it also, it kind of ties into the thing that we're doing across the company, which is to have that single source view that is kind of stamped by the domain expert as that source of truth. And so we call that our data product strategy at AT&T. And so it's either a lightly curated or a more heavily curated, depending on the use case, set of data products that are built around a domain area where a domain expert is stamping that to say this is what I believe should be used throughout the company. And when we do that, we have really, hydrated metadata around it, and that's what makes this generative AI solution magical, right? Because when you have that curated view that has the proper metadata, the proper lineage, now you can do, great things. You can get, really performant, generative AI against it, and you can get extremely accurate solutions against it. Without that, you're struggling.
And so I guess what's interesting about generative AI is that it's that potential in unstructured data that before GenAI came along, the focus was very much around structured data. But where are you today in terms of thinking about all the unstructured data that sits within your organization, around your organization, and what you need to do to put that data in a format that can be used? Are you there yet, or is that work in progress?
Well, the beauty is that it doesn't have to be like the old school hard and fast format. It's a lot more flexible. But also going against raw source systems does create a bit of a problem, right? So it's that compromise. And the old classic way is get everything into a platform and get it into one format. Those days are gone, right? So unstructured data is fine, but at least somewhat curated data where you understand what's there and it's somewhat cleaned is still very important.
Yeah. And so I see we're getting close to time, Andy, but when we look at how operators use AI, essentially it's about productivity, efficiency, and/or it's about value creation. So within AT&T, I mean, I'm guessing most telcos are still on the efficiency, productivity part, and the value creation part will come. Maybe we're not there yet. Where do you feel you are in terms of the value creation part?
I think it's another good question. Good questions. But
we didn't rehearse this one, by the way, so this is new. I'm in trouble afterwards, I tell you.
It's true. I think it's all tied together. Look, like I said, the reason for being at AT&T for me is to drive value. And that value with generative AI, we've focused on free cash flow impacting value. Like that's what the use cases that we're prioritizing are the ones that actually, have an impact on the bottom line. And so productivity is a part of it, but we're looking at, that creates labor savings, that creates efficiencies that we can bring, into the balance sheet view. And I will tell you, we committed to a cost efficiency program. We've been very public about saying that AI, and especially generative AI, will be a significant and meaningful part of that, and we're on track. So this is not a science project for us at AT&T. I mean, this truly is part of how we're running the business, and we're seeing, this materialize, in the business for giving us that value that we expect.
And you mentioned before, I think you mentioned for $20 million, is that one specific project?
That was just one. That was just the.
So out of interest, as an organization, do you have, what's the benefit of AI to you currently? Are you able to give a number or numbers?
It's a hard question.
I thought I'd try my hand anyway.
We
don't need to answer.
So the question is, we can, in a public setting, it's a little bit difficult,
sure,
especially during a quiet period.
But you do have KPIs that maybe
we have extremely precise KPIs, and we track it. Let me just, we're going over. We actually run this program with the business, and the business CFOs are at the table with us. So we're tracking this to the penny.
Yeah, fabulous. Well, Andy, that's been brilliant. So I know you have to shoot off, but there's plenty of AT&T folk around the session today, so try and grab some of their time. But thank you so much.